Welcome to the Millionaire Mindset and Strategy Secrets podcast, the podcast for visionary women ready to break through the old rules of business and step into next level leadership, income, and impact. My name is Maggie. I'm a business mentor, strategist, and former multi-six-figure entrepreneur turned soul-led advisor for women who aren't here to play small.
And I'm Stephanie, an ex-corporate gal turned serial entrepreneur, a CEO, mindset mentor, and boundary strategist. I help women clean up their time leaks so they can run their business on their terms. And if you've been feeling like you've outgrown your current strategy, you're craving smarter systems, deeper alignment, and more spacious success, you're in the right place.
So every week, we'll dive into behind the scenes strategy, energetics, and mindset shifts that help high achieving women create thriving businesses that feel like home. This is where vision meets execution and million-dollar growth starts from the inside up, inside out. Let's unlock your next level.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Jones. I am the founder of Powerhouse and the CEO of Mindset. I am your time strategist and boundaries babe. I am here today to talk to you about boundaries over burnout. We're going to talk about your calendar, we're going to talk about your energy, and we're going to talk about the cost of success. And not the cost of what actual success and freedom is, but the cost that we often think we need to expend before we actually get to the place where we are successful. So if you haven't met me, I am a mom of three. I am, like I said, time strategist, CEO mindset mentor, and your boundaries babe. I am here with Maggie. We run this podcast and these summits, these business retreats, because we both feel that it's super important for women to really understand how to run a business without running yourself into the ground. And especially if you are a mom and you have kids, right? So often we leave 9 to 5 for what we think is freedom because we've been sold that dream, and we end up actually building a cage and a prison for ourselves. So we go from being an employee with accountability and a steady paycheck and healthcare to 24/7 thinking about our business, stress, burnout, hustle culture, and absolutely just doing too much all of the time. So how do you know if you're doing too much? And how do you know if you are living in burnout? And often I say thriving, right, in quotation marks, in burnout. The reason I say thriving in is because we have been taught as a society, as women, to just continue to push through. So we push through, we push through, we push through until we literally can't push through anymore. So when we do this, we look successful on the outside, but we're actually dying on the inside. So I believe that so many of us are actually living in burnout. And what that can look like is low level exhaustion all of the time, not eating and taking care of ourselves, not working out, putting ourselves on the back burner, saying yes to everyone and everything. Our calendar is completely full, but it drains our energy. We wake up and we're exhausted. We start our day exhausted. We we've lost that fire. We've lost that passion. We're not doing hobbies. Our relationships are suffering. We're not spending time with friends. We're not spending time with ourselves. We're certainly not spending time with our partners. So many of us, right, get into this mode where we think we have to do it all to be successful. And we think we need to do all of these things that we've been told from these gurus or that we see online. So I'm going to talk to you about a time, well, 2 times actually, that I hit burnout. One was when I was working a corporate job, and one was when I was in working for myself, and I was pretty new as an entrepreneur. So 2013-ish, I was a brand new manager at Starbucks. I had 3 children. They're all grown now. At the time, I had 2 stepkids in the house. So 5 kids, 4 parenting plans, 3 different schools in 2 different cities. And I was a brand new manager working at a job that I had to be there at 4 a.m. to open. I was doing it all, living on caffeine. My house was always clean. My car was always clean. Kids got where they needed to be. I was managing all the schedules. I was doing all the laundry. I was doing all the things. And I woke up one morning and I couldn't move. Everything hurt. It hurt to breathe. It hurt to open my eyes. It hurt to sit up. It hurt to lay down. Everything hurt. So I ended up calling the doctor, and he told me to immediately go to the ER because I possibly had an aneurysm that I think that's what it's called, right? Anyway, no, because it hadn't burst. Anyway, whatever it was, they were concerned about it. So I went to the ER and I spent the majority of the day at the ER. And they ran all kinds of tests. And they ended up putting me on this like barbiturate cocktail mix because I'd had headaches consistently every single day, all day for over 3 weeks. I didn't know what a migraine was. I had never had one. I thought headaches were part of life. Um, that was because I wasn't taking care of myself. I didn't understand what eating healthy meant. At that time, I mean, I knew how to cook, but it was so stressful that I was doing a lot of not necessarily fast food, but like casseroles and things that just weren't super like protein driven, right? I was going too long without eating. I was living on tons of caffeine and Diet Coke. So coffee and Diet Coke, that was pretty much my diet. Um, so I ended up in the hospital and I ended up having to take time off work and I ended up having to learn how to reprioritize. And there's a whole funny story about that that you can, if you follow me or if you are curious about, I will tell you, you can find it online. Fast forward to 2019. 2019, I am kind of in the same boat. Still a corporate job, this time for a big restaurant company. And I'm the only female manager out of a management group of 10. And everything that could go wrong is going wrong. There's sexism and racism and all of the isms. And I seem to be the only person who actually cares about this, which blows my mind because part of the reason I love working for corporate is because we have these rules, right? And those things aren't acceptable, except when you're kind of a rogue store and there's nobody else around you. So I was coming home, I was bringing my work home, I was on the phone with HR all the time, I was being outed at work, like I wasn't in the cool crowd anymore. There became conflict that other managers were letting the team know, so there became this weird, like, who's on what team division, unnecessary. And I was cooking dinner one night, and my dad was in and out of the hospital, and my youngest son had attempted to commit suicide twice. And everybody's healthy now and everybody's all good. But it was a really hard time. And I remember standing in the kitchen making dinner and watching Facebook, and a friend of mine was packing up her car to go to Laguna Beach to teach yoga. And I was like, what am I doing? This isn't my life. This isn't the life I want to live. And I certainly don't want to do this job for the next 30 years, 20, 30 years, whatever. And retire to go live my life and not be healthy and not having lived my life, right? I just lost a friend who was in his 40s and just death, like life is precious, right? And my girlfriend and I put in our notices, quit our jobs, put everything in storage. We got rid of everything, put 6 boxes in storage, took out to travel, and then COVID hit. So came back to Seattle for the pandemic. And what I did know is I didn't want to go back into the corporate world, right? So I went and got my health coaching certification and I went and I decided to become a health coach. And I, long story short, didn't love that either. But I was trying to figure out like all of the things to do online because online wasn't a super new world to me, but it was new in the context of coaching. I'd always followed like mom bloggers and coupon saving and all those things, but I didn't really understand how to be an entrepreneur online, even though I had been an entrepreneur and side hustles my like for the last like 20 years of my life. I didn't understand how to bring it online. So I was following these coaches and these gurus, and they were telling me to do all of these things, right? And to go fast, fast, fast. Money loves speed, money loves speed, money loves speed. And while that's true, money also loves energy, and it has to be the right energy. That's an episode for another day. But I decided to go all in this one month, and I decided I was going live every single day on YouTube, Instagram. I was on YouTube, going live every single day for the series on Instagram. I was on TikTok some, posting on social media, taking a ton of classes because I was trying to learn everything. So I was gathering all this information, working in my business, and I found that same pattern. I'm sitting at my desk too long, wasn't drinking enough water, I wasn't getting up and going outside, I wasn't exercising, I wasn't taking care of myself. And I was exhausted at the end of that month. So I did the things, but then I didn't do anything for months. And so when you are looking like you're successful on the outside, other entrepreneurs look at you and they're like, wow, she has it all and she must be doing something right. And clients must just be coming to her. That's a story. It's a story we're telling ourselves. And maybe that's true on the other side, but maybe it's not. I mean, so much information has come out, right? That says things like, these really big name coaches have these huge teams and aren't actually taking home that much money. People with huge Instagram followers are actually not making money, and smaller, more connected communities are. So the story you're telling yourself often leads to imposter syndrome, which just is another layer that causes burnout. So no matter what success looks like on the outside, how are you feeling on the inside? Do you feel like you're an imposter? Do you feel like you got it all, what you thought you wanted, but maybe it's not quite what you actually did want? Maybe this is something that you are like, you know what, I thought that I wanted this life of freedom, but it isn't actually a life of freedom. I didn't create a freedom lifestyle for myself. So I'm making the money, but I'm not actually doing the things I want to do. And I'm not showing up in the way I want to show up for my family, my relationship to myself. Maybe you're showing up for your clients though, right? So that's where you have a calendar full of things that are draining. So boundaries are the way to like pivot this, right? It's not impossible and you can have it all. We were meant for more than just work. We were not all put on this earth to work and to be employees. So the pivot is boundaries. And boundaries are hard if you don't have boundaries. And not having boundaries looks like being a people pleaser, saying yes to everything, knee-jerk reaction, right? You don't give it a second thought. You don't say, let me check my calendar. You just take it on and you'll just figure it out and make it work. Boundaries looks like saying no and then feeling guilty. That's a lack of boundaries. Boundaries looks like saying yes, and when somebody doesn't act, or saying no, sorry, and when somebody doesn't actually honor that, then you say yes because you came in. That's lack of boundaries. And it's okay. Boundaries are always a work in progress. You will always have to work on your boundaries because there's always going to be something or someone, including yourself, that can come along and can push that, right? They're going to kneel, they're going to push. And so you have to constantly work on it. And sometimes our boundaries realign. Maybe you have different boundaries when your kids are really little than you do if you, like right now, I'm traveling full time with my girlfriend because we don't have kids in the house. So my boundaries are different now than they were when my children were at home. So the best way to start this is to really sit down and look at where's your energy draining? Where are the spaces in your day, in your week, and in your life that your energy is really not where you want it to be? So this could look like you know that you have to jump on that client call and you dread it every single time. That's not your ideal client. There's either a crossover of a boundary, there's something that's happening, right? So figure out, if I don't have this client anymore, what would that open up for me? What about this client drains my energy? These are important questions because you don't want to let that client go to replace that client with another client that has the exact same problems or different problems, but the same energy. So getting clear on these answers and figuring out those types of things will help you set better boundaries in the future. Maybe it's this client doesn't honor when you need to get off of a call and you always end up being on a call for 10, 20, 30 minutes longer. Maybe it's a group coaching program and this client constantly needs one-on-one attention but doesn't pay for one-on-one attention. So think about how you can build those things into your systems before you bring a new client on. That would be one way to set a boundary, right? It's just very clear. This is how you can work with me. If you're in this container, this is the way. And if you need more attention, this is one-on-one and it's a higher price point because the higher exchange is going to not make you feel so drained, right? Thinking about how you are actually spending your time. Are you spending your time just on busy work? Are you creating before you're consuming? Or are you consuming and then you're stressed because you didn't get everything created that you wanted? You didn't post as much as you wanted. You didn't send an email or a client follow-up that you needed to do. Maybe you dropped the ball somewhere. So thinking about just paying attention, right? Pay attention for a week. Maybe write it down if you want, or maybe keep a post-it note or a nice notepad on your desk. And just every single time something comes up, they're like, wow, that doesn't feel good for me. You don't need to know why right now. Just make a note of it. And then you can go back and you can think about, what was it about that experience? Maybe it was an off day for you. Maybe you didn't get enough sleep the night before, or maybe, right, this thing comes up over and over in this type of scenario and or this particular person. So that's one way that you can start figuring out your energy drains and your energy leaks. And from there, you can start setting better boundaries in place. There are times and seasons for everything, right? I love collaborating. I love coffee chats. I love being in the DMs. But sometimes when you're building something, even if it's just a new product, or just a new launch, you don't have time for coffee chats or collaborations. So saying no to those things at that time and just saying like, I just can't right now, but please circle back with me in 30, 60, 90 days, right? After the new year, whatever the thing is. Maybe this is a summer that you decided this summer, this holiday season, I'm going to be 100% present with my family and I'm not going to be glued to my laptop. I need to only work 3 or 4 hours a day on my business. What are the things you're going to let go of? Right? So these are the things that you can start doing to set better boundaries in place. And you can say no with kindness, right? Say no in a way that is, let me check my schedule. Let me get back to you. I would love to, but because if you say yes to everything, you're saying no to something else. You're saying no to you, you're saying no to your family, you're saying no to good rest, you're saying no to sitting down and having dinner possibly, or taking your kids to the pool, or just taking yourself out to lunch. So honor yourself first and step into that leadership role, lead with conviction and clarity, and people will follow. Nobody, no empire ever fell because one meeting didn't happen or you didn't bake the cookies for the bake sale. So I would love to hear what resonated with you out of this. I have a say no vault script that I'm going to drop as a freebie for this. I would love for you to download it and just see if there's anything in there. It gives you a lot of different scenarios. If you're an employee, if you are an entrepreneur, if you're a mom, obviously like daughter, sister, whatever, it gives you some different scenarios and ways to say no, just to hold some space, because that's really what a boundary is, right? The boundary is for you to protect your time and energy and your priorities, and you just need some space between you and the request. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast series. Maggie and I super appreciate it. We are excited to see you at all things Millionaire Mindset and Strategy Secrets.